To vaccinate or to no vaccinate? And that is the question. Before I dive deeper into a video, the answer is simple. There is nothing I'm going to say in any length, wording, language, knowledge, exposition, science, pseudoscience, religion, spirituality, known, miracle that will change your mind right now. That has now been probably presented to you already. So that's key number one. Key number two, that doesn't mean vaccines are wrong. That doesn't mean vaccines are right. That doesn't mean you're right. That doesn't mean you're wrong. That's just a matter of the fact. Because the issues that you have with the science that you're presented is that there are a lot of lies in the science that you're often presented. And how can you trust a source that is often deceiving you in other means? So there's nothing that I can say to you that will change that. And that's not on you. That's not on me. That's not on anything other than the lack of transparency, the lack of balance, the lack of, understanding that things like this matter a lot in society over time. And when you don't respect the things that you claim to uphold, it's going to be extremely difficult to have people trust you as leader. And the only solutions that we have is to find a middle ground, as we said. So what it is to focus? Number one, to accept the facts that are. What is fact number one? COVID is an actual virus that exists, that appeared in society and spread through the planet, that has rippled in different manners through different groups, through different places across the planet. That is undeniable. If you're still denying it, I invite you to spend a little less time focusing on being right and seeking the things that, contradict your point of view in actual physicality, so you can form a more balanced, opinion in the topic of whether COVID's real or not. So once we establish those factors, then we can move to the next. We also know that it has different impacts, and thankfully it has not been extremely horrendous to the point that it will be worse. And it's not to take away from the already terrible things that have happened, plus the fact that it has caused deaths, and besides deaths, it has caused financial hardships. It has caused social hardships. A lot of loss, etc., through society in different manners. Damaged people, exhausted people emotionally across the planet, divided us, separated us, even though not necessarily, because emotionally we might be divided even by the force of having to distance ourselves and so on. So those things affect us, and those things need to find solutions if we are to, build ourselves as a better society going forward, instead of continuing in decline, at a much speedier rate. Understanding this, then, it's what is important when it comes to vaccines and what isn't. What is important is for the people who don't want to be vaccinated to understand that you have a lot more to learn and understand about scientific applications of sciences, to have a more balanced understanding and judgment for this. There are pros and there are cons in science, and it is not easy to determine, and it's not blanket as good or bad. So that's something for you to keep in mind. So while you might be right in a stance in occasion, it is not something blanket that you can apply to all of science, and ergo it is in your conscious duty to seek knowledge that helps you understand the complexity of medicine, and ergo then of things like vaccines, so you can make a more informed decision for yourself, your family, and those that depend on you. Though keeping that fact in mind, your opinion is strong, you're allowed to communicate it, you have a freedom of speech. However, polluting people and elaborating or contributing in the elaboration of hoaxes or etc. misinformation just to prove your point you're right, or to stick to one side just because you want to be right, or because you want to ally people to that. That makes you part of the toxic, and those things that you quote unquote claim to criticize in society, in civilization, in leadership, etc., corporations, you are applying it just in a different manner. If your approach to solutions does not involve transparency, honesty, and solutions that are better than the things that you're trying to solve, you just create an alternative means of another problem, just a different manner of that approach. So once you understand that, then yes, you have a freedom of speech, you have a right to talk about the things you believe in, so on. But you also have to understand that when you're going to make a claim, especially when you're a person who has influence over others in society, it is also a responsibility for a platform, perhaps not necessarily to take down your page or things, but to put a warning that explains you're not a person who has bothered to understand different aspects to apply it yourself. I am not going to focus on what I believe or don't, but I'm going to focus on how all the points come together. You cannot force society to do things and expect them to then respect you, value you, and accept you as knowledgeable and as someone who's trying and looking out for their best. That's you wouldn't be okay with someone forcing anything, any form of love in other space is seen as love on you, you wouldn't see it as love. Make sense? It applies the exact same way with any other lessons on. It is understandable that diseases that are viral and spreadable have to be controlled and addressed. And that's why there are measures taken in society for COVID. But however, COVID is not a long-term permanent illness, and there are means to be treated and addressed, and means to that people, once they're free from the virus, they can be reintegrated in society. Before the vaccine was introduced, it was happening successfully, and it continues to do so. And it should continue to do so because it is normal. There's nothing abnormal in that. Keeping that in mind and forcing society to be segregated, whether they're vaccinated or no, or making vaccines forceful or mandatory, will only cement those divisions and fears from many in different parts of society across the planet. Because to them you're communicating that it is what you want over their understanding. You're not trying to gain their trust or understanding, which is going to take you a long time and many actions to follow that show that you have that balance just between justice and putting their laws, etc., in society that are not meant to tell people what to do, but to keep our balance and our peace and fair justice system, between all of us across the planet. So when we understand that, it's easy to understand what my stance on vaccines are. Society should not be forced to be vaccinated. Society should not be segregated or limited to be from movement, etc., whether they have a vaccine or not. What should be accounted is their health. If people have active COVID, they should not be allowed to travel. They themselves should account that they have a health matter that they are affecting others, and they should also socially consciously acknowledge that they need to do the social distancing and treat themselves until they're healthy. If what the leadership wants is for people to be a little more understanding and next time work better together, perhaps it has to do with a lot of things as leadership has to address. Not only that, but a lot of the things set up in place by so a lot of leaders across the planet did not work as successful as a claim. Once we consider 1 year and a half, we have not found the solution to COVID. It has worsened, as a matter of fact, even after 1 year of these things in place, where many of us have lost opportunity of business, work, etc., while others who have had a lot have seemed to multiply their income and so on. So once we see these inequalities, obviously many other factors where people start to feel fearful. So it's perhaps better to address the actual problems in society, allow people to feel more trustful that leadership is not out to segregate and put them under others, as it seems with the actions taken, rather than take more forceful actions and then cement those fears further and divide society and create that chaos further. So as COVID stands, respect the laws, respect the medicine for those who need it and who are informed and trustful. Follow the instructions of your doctors, etc. For those who don't want to, respect the laws of healing, and society too, respect those who are distrustful. It's that simple.